Well, welcome to the April the 13th, 2026 session of Lunch and Learn. We've got Tony Woodard, Chief Inspector for the state, back with us. We certainly appreciate him doing that. And we're going to have a good program where we really dig into what are the changes that have been coming down the pike. And we're going to have it documented by chapter and verse from the law as well as rules and regulations. The new law and the regs, or new law and rules for inspectors and licensee. How is it going to affect you? But before we do that, Tony, welcome back.
Well, glad to be back, Tom.
I we miss you whenever you're not with us.
Yeah, we're a little busy over here.
Yeah,
Just down to four, like I said, down to four guys that run the state
yeah.
now. So
I don't
we're
know how
running.
in the world you're doing it. I really don't. Well, we're going to be looking at Act 746 and the things that it covers, as well as the rules that the department put together to try to actually implement a law. Just because you have a law doesn't mean it gets implemented because somebody has got to figure out how they're going to implement it. So Department of Labor and Licensing went to work and have been working really, really hard to try to find ways that they can implement all the provisions of Act 746. Let's just start right here. A lot of this stuff, Tony, people already sort of know about, but I wanted you to confirm it so we get it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, yeah, and the wording, and I want to clarify the fact. So what this allows in the HVAC law, for electricians, it's listen. Don't take this the wrong way, but that code will send you to the left and it'll send you to the right, and it'll say one thing on one page, another thing on another page. Well, our HVAC law on electrical, we're clear. We want a disconnect means outside the appliance. Now, that says outdoor unit. This is the appliance. This can be the furnace. This can be the air handler. It can be the condenser. We want the power. Our law wants the power killed where you can physically see it, to where you're looking at it right there that it's killed. Unless you know you've got a lockout tagout breaker on the main panel, we want you to be able to see it here. The NEC still allows, say, a 4-ton air handler. When they come into them non-fused disconnect breakers from the manufacturer, you still have power inside the cabinet. You have killed it from the downstream of that disconnect to the electric strips, the blower, and so forth, but power can still energize that cabinet. I'm not going to say what company, but I will say, unfortunately, we did have some electrical executions this year that
Oh, wow.
lost a couple of lives. Yes, sir. Recently, not too long ago. So we will kill the power outside. And I get, I even have electrical folks go, well, that doesn't what the NEC. I'm not quoting the NEC. We're telling you what our law does. Those units will be killed outside of that appliance, plain and simple, even though that might say outdoor. And now we've extended, we are apples to apples with Texas and Oklahoma. We match that length. And this isn't, we're going to go in and rewire houses or anything. And this is for maybe a retrofit, maybe a
Yeah.
situation we moved an RTU a little further to the roof or moved it somewhere else. This allows that where they don't have to, when they bid this, they can do this work without having to buy another electrical permit. Their mechanical permit will cover the scope of this work for that specific appliance. That's what this is.
Tony, I wish we had a way of letting people know when something happens, like you were just talking about that, some electrocutions, because I don't know about most people, but I always never take anything as seriously as it ought to be because nothing's ever going to happen to me. I just, you're just raised, you're a man, you can do anything.
Yeah.
But when you know something is serious, then all of a sudden you'll back up and say, oh, maybe I should pay attention to that. But appreciate that. All right, here we go. We repeat it again. HVACR may run 75 feet of electrical wire from the disconnect box to an outdoor unit. But
or to the appliance. We should
okay,
have worded it to the appliance, period. Uh, the mechanical
okay,
system appliance. Yeah. Let's just use the furnace in the attic.
yes, sir.
20 amp breaker. You can put that breaker, that wire, you're going up, you go through. And there's a pictorial. In fact, what we're going to start training, there's a pictorial that shows the perfect world where you have access going to the attic. The light switch is where
Mm-hmm,
it's supposed to
mm-hmm.
be at entry. And they show that in series wiring where the electrician or the heat and air person can hit that light switch, come up, go to the luminary, go through the luminary and to the receptacle that requires 110-volt receptacle. Now, when you hit that switch, you've made that receptacle hot. All that can be done in conjunction and go right there. They can do that. It is in their code. It's always confusing when they look at that, but the luminary device, the receptacle, is in the 306.3 attic access.
Yeah.
Now with the 75-foot rule, they can do that. I'm sorry, Tom, what?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say that, and that's been there a long time.
It absolutely has. Yes, it has. So they can do that. Dedicated unit, that their electrical component is for their appliance. Now, guy said, well, what if it's an instantaneous water heater? I said, well, that's a plumber putting that up there. Again, the same requirements are there. They want the luminary, they want that, they want the walkway. But we're talking about our license A, B contractors. These are for your A and B, not your D and your E.
I've had some people this week, I heard them say that they didn't understand why you had to have a disconnect box, that a plug-in had always worked good for them. I didn't know why they couldn't just jerk the plug.
I filled quite a few questions on that last week myself.
Oh my goodness. All right, 75 feet of gas piping.
75 feet of gas piping. Again, you're matching what the others were to bring it in line with them. It's the same deal. We're feeding the unit or appliance that we're serving. That's it. Again, an example might be an RTU. Maybe you had existing home and you come out of the back and put a 20 by 20 living space or something. You had to move your package unit over. You've added. I had some guys, I had some of the actual plumbing inspectors go, well, do they know how to increase the size of the plumbing? I said, well, I sure hope so, because on the test that I created, we asked just as many on the fuel gas code as we do on the master plumber test and the master journeyman test. And I have wrote up just as many master plumbing and journeymans for undersizing gas piping so everybody needs to know how to run chapter 4 and run the gas piping and the sizing, whether you run a hybrid method, the longest length method, whatever you're doing. So again, that's what inspectors do. And unfortunately, that seems to educate the professional license holders in the field is when they fail inspections. But that's the life we're in. And that's why I'm trying to get all the inspectors on the same page statewide. So I don't hear this, well, they don't do that over there, or they don't do that over here.
Yeah. Okay. Things have changed. And I've heard for years, 30 years, people say, well, all these guys running around working without a license and they don't get fined muff. And boy, things are changing.
I invite you to zoom into our hearings if you don't think they are. And I will say this, when the code enforcement enforcer, Sam Martinez, issues penalty to someone, I strongly behoove them to take that and pay it, because it's going to double, triple, or quadruple when it gets to the board, because she gives them a way out. But the board, like in this last case, it could have been a $10,000 fine instead of a $2,000 fine. And they have the authority to do that, 1,000 per violation. 5 violations, not much, $5,000.
That's per penalty per day.
Correct.
Jeez. One of the things I like about our board is they're not penalty happy.
Nope.
You can tell whenever they do something, they have really wrestled with whether or not it's a fair thing to do. And ultimately, you got to take in consideration, how has it affected the consumer? How grievous was the penalty? But yeah, it's up. Don't play around with the law anymore.
I just, like the last case, individual clearly didn't have a license. And he even informed the board, which he told them right there to them, they didn't have a license. And that case there, that individual got more than a fair deal on that situation. Listen, I'm a real stringent person, but I'm also very, very fair. We give everybody an ample warning and we just don't start fining people. We inform them, let them know. But that gentleman there, it's a good thing I wasn't on the board. He got a fair shake all the way around.
Right.
Really.
Okay, our C license has been eliminated, hasn't it?
Yes, sir. Everybody that had a C. In fact, I got those numbers. We migrated 106 to a B. There's no more C, no more repair license or when 91 come along. I don't know if folks remember that, but Sears and Roebuck and even Montgomery Wards and even J.C. Penney back in the day, you could just put it on your charge card. They'd come out. Hell, they'd sharpen your lawnmower blades. They'd come out and do a little bit of everything. They'd charge your unit. Well, they got these C licenses. I know back Arkla Gas used to work on the Arkla Surveils. There were a bunch of those that got the C license because they were just strictly doing that. Well, that was what happened, and it kind of fled away. And now we've removed it, and we were fair to the ones that had the C. They've been moved to Bs.
Gotcha. All right. Let's see. That's what you were just saying here, that they were transferred to a B license. So, hey, that worked out great for them.
Yep. There were several C's that we had found that were installing equipment anyway. Yeah, so you got to get the correct license for that.
Yeah. Okay. Continuing education has changed, and this is a big part of it.
Let's try to do this best we can. Okay. So the continuing education, you actually can go, the new wording is per current code cycle, not current adopted code cycle. So ICC come August or July, depending where it rolls out, more than likely I'm going to say August 1, will actually be in the 2026 IMC code cycle. If you can find CEU training provided for the 2026, we will accept it. Now, we can't enforce the 2026 code until it gets adopted by legislation here. However, what that does do, when that goes into effect, if that 2026 code cycle goes into effect August 1, we're just saying that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Now we've started a new code cycle. You will have to get that 8 hours of new continuing education, and why I'm saying new, because there's several contractors that have 12 hours or, they might have attended 4 of your 2-hour classes and already have 8 hours in their bank. They had met the old 8-hour requirement. If say they were renewing today, they could upload that certificate that they've already got and renew. Come the new code cycle, if they haven't met this, then before we go to, say it's 2029, those 3 years, and I'm giving it a 3-year because that's what ICC's on, they will have to attend and get 8 hours. Well, it's an easy, just the classes you offer through your department or your HVAC association, Tom. If they hit 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall every year, they've got 12 hours in 3 years. They've clearly met it. So say year 2026, they did 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall, and they went to renew the next year. They could upload those 2 certificates, even though it's only 4 hours, and they'll be able to renew their license. What's confusing is the computer system from Tyler Technology. You have to upload a CEU certificate with a COI certificate just to move on in the application process. It's out of our hands. That's part of the IT. It's part of the program that's in the system. Now, if everybody's as confused as I am after saying that, just go to Tom's classes and get your hours. There you go.
That is the simplest and easiest way to do it. And besides all that, let's say, okay, you say, I don't want to go to those folks' meetings. Well, if you will just go to a training session offered by your distributor for your equipment every year, you will never be short. Never. And Tony, that was our goal. The reason we worked so hard was to get people to go to their distributors to learn about the equipment that they were selling and pick up some information on code. It's always been what we wanted. It was to benefit the dealer and the technician to learn what the trade that they're in, and then to help the consumer so that they can be assured that the people that come to their house can do more than walk and chew gum at the same time.
Exactly right. And there's multiple dealers that hold the 4 hours. If you went one year and the next year, then there's your 8 hours for that 3 years. That all hold it. There was a chat question. And it
Yep.
asks, would a light switch work as now on a gas furnace? I'm assuming, let me go back and see what it said. Will a light switch be considered a disconnect? Yes. If like on 110 volt, we're talking about furnace, yes. Now, here's the deal. Now, I don't know if your inspector is taking the cover off and looking to see if that's a rated 15 amp light switch versus the little 3 amp light switch that you get for $1.99. It needs to be the rated switch for that appliance, a dedicated line to that. They actually sell rated light switches for that, and that is deemed a disconnect. Yes, it is.
Good word. Good word. Okay, we continue to look at the continuing education, and that item down there at the bottom, it just says that before the end of that final year, you got to have that 8 hours, but you're going to have to show that you're doing something every year of the way, aren't you?
Correct. Exactly. So
Okay.
you need to attend something every year, whether it's the 2, 4, something to have to upload because the computer looks for that. That's
I
the
got
best
you.
way to say it.
It's again, if people will just do what they ought to do a good job for their consumer, this is no big deal. You'll be getting it automatically. This was interesting. We put this thing out there saying, "Hey, this is for inspectors too." Talk about this.
Okay, any mechanical inspector of a county or local jurisdiction that has adopted mechanical inspector shall be registered annually with the board. Yes, so that changed with the rules because so in 06, the program that was developed with ADH was kind of developed under the plumbing rule, which was anyway here and there. Now there's been a new program. I've built a brand new program, and it is a legit program. And so, with the new rule adoption, if your municipality is selling a mechanical ordinance, you have a mechanical ordinance to sell that permit. Now you have to have a certified inspector, even if it's a little bitty town, Judson. I'm not picking on them, I'm just using them. It could be Judson, Bald Knob, smaller jurisdictions. They still require that now, that they're incorporated in doing that. That individual, their inspector, will go to the day and a half class. It's 2 day, day and a half of training and 4 hours to take the exam. They clearly will know, but because I'm throwing 30 years of stuff at them in 12 hours of what they have to have, and it's life safety. I mean, it is a bunch of life safety on what they got to have. But we have set this up. I've got my spreadsheet. We have school starting on the 28th and 29th in Paragould, and by August, I'm getting everybody that even was an inspector in the old school is having to go through this again. Everybody. This is all new. Everybody's going to have to attend it and get certified. And then starting next year, there'll only be maybe 3 certifications, and then they'll have probably 8 recerts across the state for them to renew their license every year. But we have a bunch. I mean, when I finished that program in 19, we had a total of 198 licensed mechanical inspectors from 06 to 19. And what I'm seeing here right now that is signed up, we have a total of about 60 brand new ones it's going to have to test, and about 47 of the existing.
What is the price on that training?
Absolutely free. Now, you don't get that anywhere, nowhere. If you were to go to ICC, this is a $1,500 a day training, and this is day and a half. If you went, it is absolutely free. Now, there are some that are joined CORE, and we do provide a service for the code officials of Arkansas. That costs money, but that's through CORE, and there's plenty of other classes that's being offered. Now, why they're being offered, where they're being offered is the reason of that. It's because it's free. So we have to find good training facilities that offer us a free building because we're there for 2 days. So, that's why it's kind of like, why is it here? Why is it there? Well, it's where it's free. So that's why we hold them where we hold them.
Tony, that when I heard about that, I thought that's great. These inspectors need it because I hear all over the state our guys complaining, saying, well, over in this town, they do it like this, and on this other town, they interpret it another way. So trying to get us all on the same page, that's very good for inspectors and for the contractor, the man out in the field and the homeowner. That's a good deal. Now they have to have 8 hours a year continuing education, don't they?
They do. They do.
Wow,
As if
that's
no, but
great.
and it's that program will be provided by ADLL. That program, they will go and attend a renewal every year, and their license runs from January 1 to December 31st, and that's it. They've got to, but in the month of December, all of the city inspectors, county, they'll be renewing. Theirs is strictly a January to December 31st, and they'll have to get their continuing education during that time frame. Hey, I do want, there's this chat thing. I want to try to help folks with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that individual had the individual, Brian, I believe it is, you're good. Just upload your 4 hours and you'll be good to go. Now it's something about download, upload. Man, you see this old gray hair and this old man, I am not the computer guy. I can help you get with Jonathan. Man, I know the on off button. That's it. Let's just be honest with that stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
I guess in the middle of all of this continuing education, the ultimate winner is the homeowner.
Yep. And the contractor.
Yes,
because
sir.
We stop callbacks, whatever, and we hear and we go out and we vet stuff to where things weren't being seen, but it's a win-win for both. It really is.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is something I think most people are aware of, and that's how that we've increased the size of equipment that you can install as a B contractor.
Yes, this takes care of a lot. Where now I do want to be clear about this. Our license that is issued from this department at ADLL, there is another department in North Little Rock over there that is also ADLL. They issue your commercial contractor's license. When we established, when Richard Clark and the legislation they wrote the law in 91, and the law got passed, and you had a $50,000 limit with your license. That was a lot of equipment. You could do a lot of little strip centers and whatever. That's not the case no more. You can go set 20-ton RTU, and you've exceeded. You will have to have that other commercial contractor's license from them. The license we issue is good for $50,000 and down. Now, that's not at a single family dwelling. And I'll tell you, there's a house being built on Beaver Lake in Bentonville, 35 tons on this house. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. That's different. That Class B contractor can do that entire house, even if that job is $250,000 worth of mechanical on that. It's when we start going into commercial addresses, a quadplex, and so forth. Legislation, they're trying to bring legislation in and do a change with ADU. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. I will say I'm not an Airbnb person, but I do know that my grown adult kids want to stay in Airbnbs, and I've opened their eyes to some things. And if this new thing gets on the accessible dwelling unit, meaning if I've got a lot and I can build a 3-story building in my backyard and I'm not subject to building codes and building requirements, a 3-story ADU is very dangerous when it's stuck in the back of a yard and the house that's in front catches on fire and this thing's fenced in and you got to get you and your family out and around. There's a lot of things that I'll surely hope people open their eyes and pay attention to what's coming down the pike next year. Now, I will be a civilian, and if they think I'm a loud voice now, hold on, folks. You see those people? I will be speaking my mind. I will.
Well, if I could talk you out of retirement, I would, but I also know it's good for the industry for you to be able to go out there and speak your mind. That's a good thing, Tony.
I'm going to tell them what's happening. So, yeah.
Now, I have a question for you here on the Class L license. There's a lot of folks that are approaching that point that they want to get that Class L license. And tell us what their limitations are.
Okay, this is for the old guys like me getting real close.
Yeah.
If I got back out, your limitations, you can't have employees. It's you. Basically, you're running service. You're maintaining, a lot of guys like this is, well, I'm going to help my church. Well, he's physically standing there and he's watching. And this kind of gets here to there. What you're not supposed to install equipment. Okay. That's what this is clearly about. Can you lend your expertise? Yeah, you absolutely can. But once you leave your dwelling, property you own, and whatever, that's where you get to where you're not supposed to be installing. You can perform service all you want. You do not have to get continuing education. You do not have to get liability insurance. I I don't like that part for the fact that you could be out there working on something in somebody's unit and it catches fire, but it's not a requirement. You don't have to have this, but it is strictly a what I call a grandfathered license. Congratulations, you're still alive at 65. You've made it. You recognize the industry. The distributors see that you still have an active license. They help you buy your parts and whatever you need at the wholesale price, so you can go out and pull service and put a little folding cash in your pocket, so forth.
Very well. That's great. If a guy wants to piddle around and go help his friends and his neighbors and change out a contactor and this or that, it gives him a chance to stay active and involved, and it costs him virtually nothing to do it.
Okay, I got one here by who can it spend it? Inspector training. Well, inspectors now, when that's a good question, and I'll so there was an individual in the chat. We'll know who can go to this. Well, this is really set up for the mechanical, municipal, county, state inspectors. I do have an engineer or two that want to sit in on it. If I have room, I'm going to allow it. I have a couple of HVAC instructors from the vocational schools that want to sit on it. And if I have room, I'm going to allow that because they're providing the training and moving on. This program is really for that. Now, if it gets up and going and we have room, then we would invite folks. But you got to understand the reason we're at such locations, we're limited in seats, 30 by 30 average. It's free, limited in parking, and we're trying to get all of the inspectors certified this year. And I think moving forward, we might try to build something. I'm going to try to help ADL with everything training possible I can to help get everybody and get them educated of the changes and things coming on. I do know I received a notice today. One of the discussions is the A2L in the 2026 code and ASHRAE. They're trying to get together. They're kind of backing up on the MAQ quantities, but it's not written in stone yet. But we'll discuss that. But as currently, my answer for that is going to be it's strictly at inspectors, and if I have availability, you just have to reach out to me.
Tony, we have reached the end of this session, and I really appreciate you taking time. I want everybody to know that Tony's having to fill in because we lost an inspector up in Northwest Arkansas. So he's got his normal duties that there wasn't enough time for. Plus, he's got trying to fill in and do what is
21
necessary.
counties.
Yeah, up in Northwest Arkansas, which has got to be the busiest corner of the state anyway. So, Tony, we recognize the sacrifice you made to be here today, and we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody that tuned in, and we look forward to the next 4 or 5 months of you still being with us as the chief inspector. But then we're going to look forward to you continuing to be with us as you are what'd you call yourself? A civilian, I believe.
Well, yep. I'm private sector, I guess is what they.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be back again next month, May the 11th. And if you've got a question with the Department of Labor and Licensing about renewing your license or about code, call 501-682-9201, 682-9201, or send an email to adll.hvac@arkansas.gov. Appreciate you. Look forward to hearing from everybody and seeing everybody again in May. Bye now.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tony.